everybody, and welcome back to the Lumberjack Flashback. Today's episode won't be going back too far, as we're talking to two crucial members of the 2019 NAU women's cross-country team that returned to the NCAA championship meet for the first time in the past decade. Miranda Myers and Michaela Malspina, thanks for joining me. How are you both doing?
Good.
I'm good.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get used to everything happening with COVID right now, and I'm very thankful that we can still do what we do and run and get outside and not have to wear a mask and worry about it too much. But yeah, just enjoying summer.
Same.
All right. So before we get into your careers at NAU, I want to get into a little bit about how you both landed in Flagstaff. And, we can do this in any order, however you guys want to, if you want to jump in. But how was the recruiting process for both of you?
Do you want to go, Mick?
Either one.
Okay, I'll start. So I need to remember, it was so long ago, but yeah, I took a couple visits. I would say about 5. And NAU was kind of towards the end of that. Actually, it was my last one. I signed 2 days after I visited. I just knew right away that it was definitely the university for me and a place that I wanted to study and to train as well. I think just my visit was only 24 hours, so that's kind of saying something. I got shown around the campus, and I met Coach Hines and Coach Leah, who was our women's coach at the time. And just the atmosphere really spoke to me. And it was a small university, but not too small where I felt claustrophobic, but it definitely felt like home. So when I got off of that plane and got back to Sacramento, I told my mom and dad that I had already told Coach Hines that I wanted to sign. So yeah, it just felt right, and I just went with it, and it was the best decision I've made. So
Yeah, mine's kind of similar. I went on a few visits also, and then I contemplated a lot. I talked to my family and everything, and my high school coach actually ran for NAU when he was going to college, so that's why he pointed me in that direction. And then so I talked to him a lot also about running there, and I finally just decided I think that would be best for me too, altitude training, and just the team was small, but they also seemed really serious about running, and I really thought that was the best fit for me as well.
So a couple weeks after you both signed, I think it was November 2014 when the school announced that you were both in the recruiting class, you both ran at the Foot Locker West Regionals, and you actually finished one spot apart from each other. I think it was 17th and 18th, actually. When you were running during the race, were you aware of each other being that close together? Or when you crossed the finish line, did you just kind of turn around and realize that you were a couple seconds apart?
Yeah, I feel like it was more at the end.
Yeah, I wasn't really coherent about it during the race. I wasn't oh, there's Michaela, But I definitely knew we had both signed, and so they put that out, and I knew that she was going to the university. And then when we crossed the finish line, we kind of just bumped into each other, stumbling after we finished, and we were just oh, hey, you're going to NAU, I'm going to NAU, and yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
Yeah, and then I think right after that, 24 hours after, we were do you want to be roommates? We don't know anybody else, so it kind of happened like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, at the end of a long race, you're not exactly in the mindset of being being able to strike up a conversation or anything with each other.
Yeah,
literally.
I think we chit-chatted on the podium a little bit.
So obviously after your first year, or I guess after your first 2 years, Coach Hines leaves and Mike Smith comes in. I think Leah had left as well a couple months before that. What was the transition like to going to run for a coach who didn't necessarily recruit you over these past couple of years?
I think at first it was kind of scary, and everyone was just okay, what's going to happen? We don't know this guy. We kind of did a little bit of research, but not too much. And then I think after him shadowing, he made sure to talk to each of us individually and kind of get a vibe for us, and we could talk to him more about how we felt about it and what his plan was for us in the future. And I think that helped a lot to be able to stay and be ready for his coaching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really awesome. The transition seemed almost easy in a way, for us, because he would be out there with Coach Hines at like our workouts and our practices and even like our weight training. And he would kind of shadow Coach Hines like for a month or two, you know, for a while. And he would take the chance, like come up to us, like even before or after a workout and be like, so what'd you guys have? And like introduce himself and just kind of like get to know us. So looking back on it at the time, it didn't seem like it was like this crazy thing where all of a sudden he came in and the transition was super weird. It was slow. And I think that made us a little bit more, it made us like feel better about the transition.
So you think the school approached that pretty well by bringing him in before
For sure.
Eric had left, that it was a lot easier for you guys to develop a relationship with him before he's making workouts for you and asking you to be running miles and miles.
Yeah, it was definitely really scary because, we both signed with Coach Hines and Leah. And so then after 2 years, like, I mean, I wasn't planning on having a coach change, you know, no one going into, you know, a D or whatever, doing a college sport isn't like, oh, you know, my coach might change. It just kind of happened and we just kind of went with the flow, but it worked out.
Yes, it did.
So you run 1 year for Mike, and then he asked you both to sit out the 2018 season, which, as we know, kind of worked out pretty well as it prepared everyone for 2019. But being away from the sport competitively for an entire year, I don't know that either of you had an injury that's ever caused you to do that. But what's that like, just kind of being off to the sideline and kind of having to train on your own and not being able to compete?
I think that was the hardest part, was not competing. But we were still able to train with the team, and that helped a lot. And we could like encourage them and see their momentum and going into those races and knowing what they're doing. And then we kind of sat down with Smith, and he gave us a few races that we could sign up for outside of NCAA, obviously. And we could like do little runs and races on that.
Yeah, and I think it was a little different too because like Michaela and I weren't necessarily training with the team a lot because we were actually training for the Las Vegas half marathon because he wanted us to get to like those longer races. So like the girls would have a workout and he'd be like, oh, Miranda, Michaela, you're doing something else. Like you're doing a longer thing. We're like, wait, I want to train with the team. But we had to get, you know, that base in if we wanted to come back in the spring and, get that speed back and get used to racing. Just like Michaela said, not being with the team, like not being able to go in the vans, you know, for workouts and stuff was pretty hard. But I mean, I'm so thankful that we had each other because it would have been that much harder.
By ourselves, for sure.
Yeah.
So coming into the 2019 season, I know the aspirations had to be pretty high. This program wanted to get back to the NCAAs. You had a couple women run individually there, but how much more important is it to make it as a team and to be there all together as opposed to only one runner going?
Yeah, well, I feel like Michaela kind of has a little bit of background about this because she went to nationals. Michaela, as a freshman, right? You went with Paige?
Yeah, with Paige.
Yeah, so we had a girl make it our freshman year, and Michaela got asked to go to nationals to, one, keep that girl company, and then to two, like if she were to ever go in the future to have an idea of what it was like. And so, I mean, I feel like she came back and she told me that it was a little weird just with like not having a team, you know? And so that was always our goal. Like, you know, like it would be awesome if we can make it individually, but we never really talked about it or thought about that at all. It was more just, you know, what can we do as a team to get there? Because it's not really fun if you go by yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you want to add anything to that, Mick?
Yeah, it was definitely different going, like I didn't obviously race with Paige. I like just kind of missed it and it was unfortunate, but I think it worked out in the end because it just made me that much more motivated to bring the team with me to the national meet when we were going to finally be able to get our shot at trying it again. And I think it really helped to go watch the race before. So I kind of knew the atmosphere and I could help other people when we had the opportunity to go there. So I think that was really fun.
Awesome. At what point during this past season did you as a group know that, you know, the NCAAs were definitely attainable? Was it maybe, I think you were ranked 11th after the Wisconsin invite nationally, that might have been it, or I think the Big Sky meet you scored 36, and I think the next closest school was around in the 90s or so. So I mean, there's a couple of moments during the year where it might have stood out, but was there anyone particular for you two?
I'm gonna say no because just in the past have, I don't know how to put this, but we like would go into the season with like, you know, our top 7, top 8, our girls trainings would be so strong. And we like had a pretty good, not a pretty good idea, but we like definitely thought we were going to make it to the NCAAs. Like we were like, oh my gosh, like our lineup is incredible. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's excited and motivated. And then, you know, the past 2 years we would get to that regional meet and the depth is just insane. And so it was always really hard to continue to like go to the national meet. So I feel like this past season we were all holding our breaths, you know, just like, oh my gosh, like, is it going to happen? But we definitely gave it our all. And I think that at the Wisconsin meet, I would say is when we didn't know that we were going to finish as high as we did. We kind of went into it and we were like, okay, what did we place at that meet again? Do you remember? 15th, right?
Yeah.
I think we placed 15th, yeah. And going in, like, Coach Smith was, like, 20th, you know, anywhere from, like, the 18th to 20th range. Like, that's, like, an amazing day. And then we, like, crossed the finish line and found out that we got 15th, and we were like, wait, what?
That wasn't in the range.
Yeah, that was the plan. But I think I just remember all of us were ecstatic. After that race, we were all just like, we are ready to do this thing, you know? And, yeah, that would be my race, I think. What do you think, Michaela?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that was a big piece of us knowing that we had the potential to make it there. And also every time the rankings came out, I remember Miranda would be like, did you see what we got in the ranking? And I'd be like, yeah, I did. And then we both had to be like, okay, but it doesn't actually matter. We'll focus back on the next race.
Kind of like you gotta like slap yourself in the face a little, like, okay, gotta move on. Like,
yeah, like it's awesome, but we gotta do the next race.
Yeah.
You didn't really celebrate being 11th in the nation, though, at a certain point, right? I mean, you do cherish that to an extent and don't only move.
Definitely, yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think we did. I was like, we can be proud of it, but that one doesn't make it so that we go to nationals. But it definitely was a piece of making it to nationals.
Right.
It's still amazing.
Yeah.
So at the Mountain Regional meet, both of you, you know, match or break your career high, finish there. What's it kind of like, because you have to get an at-large bid there with where the team finished, and how tough of a moment is that where you're kind of waiting to find out, and what is the process like for how the at-large bids work for people who probably don't know very well how it might work?
Do you want to do it, Meg?
Yeah, you got it.
Kind of confusing. It's basically like it's different for every region, but in our region, like top 2 in the region are like for sure gonna make it to the national meet. And I feel like every year it could either be like top 2 or top 3 depending on like the depth of the teams for that year. But anywhere from like 3rd to 6th is like up in the air, and it all just kind of depends on how you race throughout the season. Like you get points for racing like throughout the fall, you know, depending on like if you beat this team and then you'll get a certain amount of points, but if you were behind a team at that race, but then you know you beat them at regionals, you'll get it starts from the beginning basically. It's confusing.
It does, and that's why the 11th ranking was really cool also.
Yes, yeah, because then we knew that we had like a lot of points, you know, to go into the season, and that people had an eye on us, which was a good thing to have, you know, trying to make it to the national meet. But yeah, so yeah, that's basically how it works. It's confusing. Yeah. But yeah, I feel like waiting every year at the regional meet is just not something I would want to do again. No. I mean, it's exciting, but it's also just so scary because you don't really know, because it's not based on, like, you could get 4th and then it's like, well, we still don't know if we're going to go or not. Like, we have to wait for every regional meet to finish to find out if you made it to the national meet. So you're just hanging on your seat for like even a day sometimes, because they don't confirm it for like 24 hours. But after this past regional meet, we were like all in a group, you know, just kind of waiting. It had been like 15 or 20 minutes, and Coach Smith like came up to us and was like, you guys made it to the national meet. And we all just looked at each other with like blank stares, and we were like, what?
Are you sure? Did you?
And then he was like, guys, come on, get it.
We're like, wait.
Yeah, so it was kind of a shock, I think, because we aren't used to hearing those words, like you made it to the national meet, but once we did, we were in tears and jumping around, excited for.
It took a couple days to like settle in though that we actually made it. I was like,
Yeah.
Is that kind of tough? Because I mean, I guess if you don't make the national meet, for both of you, that's probably your last cross country race. You cross the line. I think you two come through, and does any of that sit in, or are you just immediately looking for your teammates and trying to get an idea of how the team is performing as a whole? Because I know running up front ahead of a couple of your teammates, it's impossible to know what else is going on back there.
Yeah, definitely. I think the course was set up cool though, because some of them were like back and forth, so we could see on the opposite sides. It just depends on the course though. But I think for me, when I finish, I just turn around and look for my teammates and make sure that they're coming in where we need them to be. Obviously, I don't know exactly where I place usually, so I just cheer them on, make sure that they know that I'm supporting them still.
Yeah, it's always really nice to finish a race, and like even if you don't really have like a good gauge of like, oh, what places that is my teammate in, it's kind of cool to see a couple of your teammates like running together. And I'm sure we'll get to like the national meet, but like seeing people coming in together was like, I mean, you're like, I can't ask for anything better, because that they're in good shape. And so even them running together is like one of the greatest things you could see. And it's good for our school, and it makes you happy, and that they're like working together and that they have somebody. So that's kind of our goal when we race, is to, obviously beat other people, but to try and get our next jersey so we can like help each other out and say like, hey, you're not going through hell, I am too,
And like you said, we're getting to the national meet, qualifying for it, being able to experience that as a group together, as you talked about, was how important it was to all of you. How much fun and butterflies and everything and nervousness is there all mixed in on that day when you line up and you run through it, and that's going to be your last race, but it's obviously the goal you've been striving for I think 5 years at that point.
Yeah, it was the day was kind of surreal. It like started like drizzling a little bit, and they would play like the music when you are like on the starting line, and I remember I was like, what is happening? It was so scary, but it was also just, you have to take it all in because it's going to be over like that. But yeah, it was a really good way to go out. It was awesome.
Yeah, I think it was so cool just seeing like our teammates. We could just stand on the line, and like we're obviously super nervous and very emotional because it is our last one, but then we're like, okay, but this is our last one, so we have to go all in for it. We have to see what we can do as a team, individually, just everything. And it was just so cool to stand on the line with everyone.
Yeah, looking back at like all the pictures, like we are all just smiling, like having so much fun, and we would look around and there'd be teams like just so serious, and we're just like laughing, and we're like, this is gonna be awesome.
You'd been to Terre Haute earlier that season too, right? I mean, you had run at a meet there. How different was it running from a kind of regular mid-September meet where you're kind of getting an idea of the course to the whole spectacle that the NCAA meet actually is?
It was, I have no words for it. It was, I mean, going there, in mid-September, it was definitely a little freaky as well, because you're like, are we going to end up back here? And this could be the course that we are running nationals at, but yeah, it's a way different playing field when you're actually lining up, in the national meet, just kind of like, okay, here we go.
Definitely.
But yeah, it was awesome to do it with, those 6 girls around me, and knowing that we had an amazing season, and there was nothing else to do to prepare for that meet. Like we were all just super happy and super fit and healthy, and we were ready to go.
Yeah, and running at that course before the national meet also helped us a lot, because we had an idea of what we could do. And then when we found out we made it to nationals, we could kind of strategize and know the course and know what we're going to do, and like mentally prepare for it.
Yeah.
Even though the weather was very polar opposite.
Yeah.
So just looking back across your 5-year careers in cross specifically, and just this was a goal you wanted to achieve. You achieved it when you came in here and signed it, I guess, all the way back in 2014. And just for both of you, how special of a moment was it, just your entire careers, to have it pay off like this?
I couldn't ask for anything more than that, really.
Yeah, it's really hard to try and describe it. Even now, like, yeah, it makes me emotional, but it was amazing.
Awesome. Well, that's all.
I have no words.
I can let you stop there. You guys have helped me a ton. And like I said, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us about this. We're all so proud of everything you two and the team did this past year.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, check out the next episode of Lumberjack Flashback coming up next week.